I see. That's really interesting to hear. And what is it about Liwa that like made you feel so connected to this character like so deeply? What is it about that?
Green is my favorite color. No, I'm kidding. It is my favorite color, but no, I can't say for sure. Liwa was always kind of he had this dry sense of humor that I found really amusing.
From what I guess, I'd say you probably did just kind of absorb a bit of like the Liwa personality over the years because he was like your first Bionicle set, right? And you were quite young when you got him.
No, Liwa was actually not my first Bionicle set. My first Bionicle set was...
Hello everyone, and welcome to TFOL Talk, the podcast where we shine a light on awesome teen fans in the LEGO community doing amazing things, and maybe the occasional AFOL too. I'm Doodlebricks, aka Kavi, and today we're going to be hanging out with Eljay, otherwise known as Eljay Johnsen. How are you doing, man?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear, man. I've been looking forward to this as well, so the feeling is mutual. Awesome. So I guess let's just get right into the first question, which is, who is Eljay Johnsen and what do you do in the LEGO world?
So Eljay Johnsen is a freaking nerd by most people's metrics. So I am Eljay D. Johnsen. And basically everyone calls me Eljay. Obviously it's spelled E-L-J-A-Y, but it comes from a nickname where it was just the two letters. But I do a lot of, or at least I used to, I'm on a bit of a break right now, I do a lot in the Bionicle community. So I've been doing podcasting and review making for roughly 13, 14-ish years. I think I'm coming up on either 14 or 15 years. And I've been doing that with the TTV channel, which is a well-known Bionicle YouTube channel. It also has a branch called Keep the Peace, which focuses more on general LEGO. But yeah, I've been doing that for quite some time now, and it's been fascinating. It's been quite an adventure.
That is absolutely incredible, man. Wow, like 15 years. That is crazy. Not many people can say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's exciting, especially the podcast angle, which, again, I don't remember the exact timeline. I started doing podcasting in 2009, so I think that's been about 14 years. I just celebrated 14 years of being on a podcast, and it's exciting because nowadays you see a lot of people doing podcasting, and I'm like, I was right there. I was there before it all blew up and it became this huge thing, and it's really cool.
Exactly. No, you were there like way before that. You're one of the originals.
Yeah, finally happened.
Especially of LEGO podcasts as well, specifically. Like, mm-hmm. I'm guessing, because it started as the Three Virtues podcast, if I'm correct, yes?
So back in 2009, it started off as a podcast called iBZP. It's the Independent BZ Power podcast. And BZ Power is one of the largest Bionicle fan websites. It's been around since 2002. And a bunch of my friends made a podcast, and they invited me on in 2009. And then it became the Three Virtues podcast, and eventually TTV.
Okay. I see. So yeah, you guys are, I'm assuming, are probably one of the first like LEGO podcasts online.
We're definitely one of the oldest. I think there have been a handful of others. BZ Power did have their own podcast as well. It just wasn't as long-lived. And I think there's been, to my knowledge, maybe one or two other LEGO podcasts, but I'm not terribly familiar with a lot of others. Obviously, that's changed now, which is great. I think that more podcasts are always a good thing.
I see. That's really interesting to hear. We'll definitely be getting like more into a lot of the stuff you mentioned there a bit later on in the episode. But the next question I want to ask is, how and when did you get into LEGO?
So I've been in the LEGO essentially as long as I can remember, but I seriously got into it either late 2002 or early 2003. It was a toy store in my, I guess, hometown of Palo Alto, California. And I was just looking for something to pick up because I was young and like, oh boy, toy. And nothing was appealing to me until I saw a Bionicle set on the shelf. And I was like, I have to have it. And from that point on, I've been very engaged in LEGO, engaged in Bionicle. and I got into the community in, I want to say, 2005.
Okay. That's really cool to hear. Man, dude, so you got into the Lego community the year I was born.
Oh my gosh.
You're welcome.
Oh man, everyone around me is like, "Oh, we're old, LJ," and I'm like, "No, we're not.
No.
Okay, maybe
exactly.
I'm seeing the argument.
Oh god, may I ask how old you are?
You may, but it is a secret. I'll tell you afterwards. But to the public doesn't know. I like keeping it that way, just because.
Fair enough.
It's some personal information I like to keep a secret if I can. But
I totally
I'm probably older than you think I might be, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Interesting. Good to know. All right. Well, sorry, viewers, you don't get to hear this. It adds to the illusion, the mystery of Eljay Johnsen.
I'll see about some other exclusives for you. I'll try and think of some things that like no one's heard before. We'll see.
All right. Cool. Tune into TFOL Talk for the exclusives on Eljay Johnsen. Oh man. All right. So let's see. So, do you think you could kind of give us a little bit more insight onto your journey in the Lego community and how you got to where you are now?
Absolutely. So I started when I entered the Bionicle community, because it was on BZ Power in 2005. I kind of lurked for a year, and then I started like interacting in 2006. And the year after that, in 2007, I started making Bionicle fan comics, and they were pixel comics. And I did that for about 8 years. So a couple of years after starting that, I met a bunch of people on the website. We became friends. They invited me to the podcast. And eventually, the podcast became a YouTube channel, because BZP at the time, they were very restrictive about linking to other sites, including YouTube. So we made a YouTube channel, and that it blew up. We had a bunch of content. We had the podcast, which was one of the, if not the only active Bionicle podcast at the time. And I started making a review series in 2013 called Eljay's Recap Reviews, where the goal was to review every set from the Bionicle theme, which I accomplished. I'm so far the only person to have done that. Like everything meticulously, all of the constructible sets that you can buy or acquire from Lego. So I did that, and the channel kind of blew up. We became a lot more personality-centric. We did Let's Plays. We did interviews. We have some of the earliest interviews with some well-known Lego associates, affiliates, employees, such as Greg Farshty, who's an author, Christian Faber, who is influential in Bionicle, comic artists, and so on and so forth. So I've been doing that since, and only recently have I had to take a bit of a break due to a lot of other real-life responsibilities, including work.
I see. Wow. That is absolutely incredible, man. Just the fact that you started as just like a group of friends just online, just enjoying nerding out about Bionicle and Lego, to one of the most well-known like groups in the Lego world is absolutely insane.
It's been quite a journey. There have been a lot of highs, a lot of lows. It's been an exciting time, and I'm curious now, once things get a little calmer, to see where it kind of goes next, because there's still stuff I'd like to do. It's been very exciting.
Absolutely, I can imagine. And I have a little question. How did your parents feel about you like making friends online?
They were remarkably trusting. They were very, very like, hey, listen, you keep us in the loop on things, and you're good. We'll be pretty much hands off. And that's how it went. Never ran into issues. They've been they were at the time very trusting about things, and just kind of let me handle myself, and that worked out. I ran into very, very few issues.
Wow, I'm really glad to hear. That's really great that your parents were so trusting of you to just be able to handle yourself and inform them about anything that they need to know.
Yeah,
Right,
of course, I would, and obviously there were some imperfections, because I was a little bit of a snot when I was a lot younger, as a lot of people can attest to, especially a lot of my friends. But I grew up, kind of figured out, hey, maybe this isn't the best way to make friends and influence others. Maybe being calmer and more rational and nicer, that would probably get the point across a lot better. Some people don't get that. Other Bionicle fans that have been a little problematic, but other than that, yeah.
Yeah, no, it being having problematic people is kind of like a given in any community. I've come to realize at this point, but like once again, I guess it's just not letting that be the majority of it.
Yeah, my views on problematic people in communities, they kind of ebb and flow. Like they've evolved over time, and they're probably still evolving now. They're still changing. The way that I would go about certain things might not be the way I go about them 5 years from now. But for the time being, call out bad behavior if it helps another person and hold people accountable to their word. And surround yourself with good people that have good integrity.
Absolutely. I agree. And I was just going to say, like, kind of going back to, like, how you said, you know, how much, like, you've grown since then and, like, how you were, I guess, like, a bit less experienced with all that stuff. I found it so funny because, you know, I did research and I went way back on the TTV channel to like the very first videos. And I think I just watched like a little bit of the very first The Three Virtues podcast. And it was just so funny to see like you had like a BB gun or something and with like the with your mask, and I was just like, that is a funny sight right there. Like that is really funny.
Yeah, no, it's really something else to go all the way back, because I had like it was an airsoft gun, because I was really into Call of Duty way back when, and I was like, oh yeah, and like wanted to like have a airsoft loadout kind of like I did in the game, and a lot of people know me for my gold mask. It's a mask from Bionicle. It's called a Miru, and in the Bionicle story, it's the mask of levitation. And when I was younger, I had made my own, generally out of cardboard. They weren't very good looking. They weren't very professional looking, but that was like my thing. People knew me for my gold mask. I got a real good one. It's like al dente, cooked to perfection.
Oh yeah.
But that's what a lot of people are familiar with me as, and it's just changed and evolved like everything else has over the years.
Yeah, no, it really has. I think like it's really cool to see how like the mask is almost kind of a representation to see how you have evolved over the years as well, seeing how it's slowly improved and gotten more refined over the years.
Oh yeah, and that's how a lot of my content has been as well, the stuff that I've made, because I also this year, 2023, I've celebrated 10 years since I started my review series, the recap reviews.
Oh.
And at this point, I've made hundreds of reviews, well over 300 at this point. And the way that they've changed over the years is astounding. They're completely different.
Absolutely. I think they're like a great time capsule as well. Like if people go back and commit to watching every single one of those, if you do, like bravo, that is amazing. But I think it would be really interesting to just see in the reviews themselves how you've improved and changed over the years with them.
Yeah, no, it's something else, because the recaps were a way for me to practice talking, because before I started working on those videos, I couldn't talk very well. A lot of my speech, and you can hear this in older TTV episodes, and you can hear this in the very first podcast I was a part of, it's very stuttery, it's very janky. Like a lot of my emphasis is in completely bizarre places. It's really strange. So when I set out to do the reviews, I had a goal in mind. I was like, all right, I need to practice being able to think quickly and being able to talk coherently and being able to talk in a streamlined manner and not rely on scripting or editing as a crutch. So what I would do is I would start the recording. I'd have a bullet point list in my head of what I was going to say about any given set that I was talking about. It's like, all right, this is what I'm going to talk about. Start the recording, and I start talking about the set. I do have some stuff written down, like technical info, like part count and set number and whatnot, stuff I just could not remember. And my idea was that if I screwed up, if I had a or a cough or sneeze or something that I would otherwise edit out of that review, then I would stop the recording, delete the footage, and start it all over again.
Wow.
And this got very annoying when I was doing these large video reviews on big sets, because I'd have a lot to talk about. And so these video reviews were getting like 15, 30 minutes long. And then at the very end, and then I'd have to restart it. I delete the entire
No
thing. I stuck
way.
through that for every single video. I think the only one that got majorly edited was one from the 2002 wave of sets, but that was 13 different builds. Was it 14?
Okay.
13 or 24? It was a lot of different builds in one set, so I couldn't just do it continuously because I'd have to take the thing I was building apart and rebuild it. So it had to be segmented. That took me all night to do.
I see. Wow. That is like some incredible dedication, and like dedication to one, the craft, and also once again like improving your way of talking and that kind of thing. That is, wow. I mean, it sounds like a little bit like torture as well, like you said, getting right to the end and then having to delete the whole thing. But that is truly incredible.
Yeah, it was a struggle at times, especially. Like, I think the one that sticks out to me was like my Barag review. And Barag is a set that released in 2002. I think the set's name is Kadak and Gadak, though. Regardless.
Okay.
That one was a longer video, and that's one that I screwed up at the end, and I had to restart. And it worked. It really did. It improved the way that I talked. I learned how to speak a lot better. Right now, I don't know if I'm doing the best job I could be doing. It's super early. I work nights. So I'm well outside of my comfort zone in terms of time of day. But
Okay.
it really did help me, and those are skills that I learned and I crafted and I refined that I use at work. And they've really benefited me.
That's amazing to hear, honestly. And so, question: was the reason that you stuck so heavily to that idea of not cutting out anything, kind of to make sure you stayed disciplined with it and didn't fall behind, or was there something else to that?
It was purely so that I was actually doing the thing that I set out to do, which of course, yes, it was to review all the sets, but it was also to improve the way that I spoke, the way that I interacted with everyone else, and I didn't develop bad habits. Now, bad habits eventually did happen. You'll see that in a lot of the comments of those videos where there's just a word or two that I'll kind of rely on like a crutch because sometimes I didn't want to go or ah or like. So those are sprinkled throughout, but it was to remain disciplined. It was to specifically be like, all right, if I can't do this, if I cannot make this review in one take, I need to redo it because I'm not doing it to the standard I'm trying to achieve. So it was purely so that I could refine myself and the quality of my work and the quality of myself.
I see. Well, that's incredible, honestly. And once again, that dedication is something that I think a lot of people don't have. So it's really amazing to see that you also from such a young age had that as well.
Yeah. No, and it was a good thing. It benefited me greatly. And that's not to say that everyone should do that. I'm not telling everyone, hey, you need to do this in one take, and if you screw it up, delete it no matter how good it is. Even if you might get a worse quality recording later, just deal with it. That's not what I'm saying at all. That's just the way I went about it. It's also why the reviews are the way they are. I wouldn't make the reviews that way now. I would definitely edit them. I would definitely take an opportunity to script certain parts out or think a little more about the words I'm going to use during that review, as opposed to just trying to come up with this stream of conscious thought.
Yes, absolutely. That's, I think that's also a great example of like how you don't necessarily have to religiously stick to one way of doing things if it doesn't feel like it fits you anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's exactly, you can see that in the reviews as well. They changed over time. I think the latest Bionicle review that I made, which was for the 2023 gift with purchase, wildly different than my first review. They are almost, you wouldn't believe unless you heard my voice and saw my face, you wouldn't believe that they were by the same person because they're just so different in style and camera work and editing and format.
Yeah, I can imagine. So we kind of went in depth there about the recap reviews, but what inspired you to start them in the first place? Because that is a very, very ambitious task.
So the funny thing is, it kind of sucks. It's a bad motivation, kind of. So before my reviews, the most extensive Bionicle review collection were those by a gentleman by the name of Legomation Studios. And he had the most Bionicle reviews. They were renowned, and they were easily the most popular. And I would watch them. I would watch his reviews. And Nothing against him. I've talked to him several times. I think I've been on a podcast of his at least once. Super nice guy. Genuinely fantastic, super down to earth, really, really good dude. And I would watch his reviews, and he would be talking about the story side of the set and the set side of the set, and there would just be errors. There would be inaccuracies. Like, he would claim that one set came with another set when it didn't, or that one set was one color when it wasn't that color. And in his defense, he is colorblind, actually. So
Okay.
he literally, he could not accurately describe the color. So nothing against him at all, again. And I would watch these videos, and I'm like, no, that's not right. I can do better than that. I know what I'm talking about. Come on. Again, not a great motivation, but at the time I had already had a sizable Bionicle collection. I was fortunate enough to acquire one over the years. And I was like, well, there's not many more that I'm missing. So I already have a large collection. I'm an encyclopedia for the story. I should make my own. And TTV at the time, we were starting to get a content schedule put together. So reviews, podcasts, let's plays, things that you could consistently rely on releasing at least once a week for a great deal of time. It's like, all right, cool. I'll do reviews. I'll do my own, and I'll try and do as good a job as I can to provide the most accurate information. And so that's why I did that. And it it kept going.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Wow. I honestly, though, like, I mean, I know you say that that's not, like, the best motivation necessarily, but I think it's okay, because I think the reason a lot of people start whatever ambitious projects they do is because they see an improvement in whatever field they're going into, they see a space in whatever field they're going into that they feel like could be improved upon, and then they just start there. So, I mean, once again, I don't think you weren't doing it maliciously. It was just like, hey, I feel like there are some things that could be adjusted here, and then you just went and did it yourself, and I think that's quite amazing, honestly.
Yeah. No, and absolutely not malicious at all. Again, Legomation is a super cool guy. He's really cool, super down to earth, and he's made good videos as well. They're renowned, people really like them, and that's a good thing. And it's definitely a mentality that I've tried to hold over time, that something can always be made better by someone else. However, everything that's made is unique. So I would never claim to have the best reviews. I would actually argue right now, my reviews are not the best Bionicle reviews you can watch. But they're certainly unique. They do something that I don't know if anyone else does. Someone might do it, and I just haven't seen their video yet. But the way that I structured my reviews is that they all start with a cold open. So there's some skit pertaining to the set or the story or something. So my thought process there was, well, if you don't watch the review, you can at least rely on coming back every Tuesday to watch a funny skit and see what I came up with for that week. And that's a unique thing. And like All Out Brick right now, he has some stellar Bionicle reviews. He does things differently. The layout is different. The quality is exceptional. All of these series are unique. They do something of their own, and they're all equally valid. And more people should try to make reviews if they want to give their thoughts on something, no matter what quality it is, because it will be theirs, and that is always something worth seeing.
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody has their own unique take and perspective on things that they can offer.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that I think it's really cool as well how you thought about, well, if somebody doesn't want to commit to the whole video, here's another type of content that ties in with it that I can put at the beginning to still offer some kind of entertainment. I haven't heard almost anybody that I can think of kind of approach content like that, and that's just a very ingenious way, I feel, of doing it, because it still keeps people engaged even if they don't want to commit to an entirety of a review.
Yeah, and I tried to cater to a handful of different people with the reviews. I wasn't always successful, but what I tried to do, so you have the skit at the beginning that people can enjoy. You have the actual body of the review itself, and the way I structured those reviews were that they were individual reviews. They didn't tie into another video. So if someone was only looking for a review of that specific set, then they could find that set and get a full package. And I got a lot of flack for that over the years because I would need to be repetitious about certain aspects of certain sets. It's been kind of a community meme that I don't like blue pin axles and red axles because they showed up in a lot of later Bionicle sets, and I would have to mention them as something that people don't like about those sets. So I talk about it a lot, and some people got annoyed. They were like, okay, we get it. Yes, red axles and blue pins. You don't like them. Okay. But the thing is, it wasn't my opinion. I don't really care about them, but I had to mention them, assuming that that video was someone's only video. That's the only one they wanted to watch. So they needed the complete package. I didn't realize a lot of people were going to be watching all of them week to week or synchronously. So, yeah, I had a lot of thoughts in mind, and again, I couldn't pull it off all of the time, but that's what I did.
I see. No, that makes a lot of sense, though, because every video could have been someone's first. And once again, I don't think anybody, once the series had started, would realize it was like a whole series and go back to the very first one to watch. So it totally makes sense doing that, because once again, it could always be someone's first. So you gotta, like you said, gotta have the complete package there to make sure all the info and, I guess, general, because you look at the reviews, you did them very, as objectively as possible, right?
Yeah, and this is something I would definitely not do if I were to remake them. So the way I went into it, initially I started reviewing the sets with my own opinion. And I just kind of talk about, hey, this is what I think about this figure. I think, yeah, this is cool, this is not. And eventually I got some flack for that. Some people were quite argumentative about it. They were like, how dare you say this about this figure? Are you really going to bag on this figure for this? This is a good figure. How dare you? You're not a real Bionicle fan. I was like, okay,
man.
This is clearly not worth the effort trying to... I would debate these folks. I was like, come on, what's the big deal? Like, this is my opinion here. This is why I think this thing.
Right.
And for starters, not a great idea. Trying to argue your critics is not a great use of your time or energy. Like, try and learn from your critics, certainly, but trying to argue them, definitely not productive. So, at some point, I decided, well, this is not worth that. This is not worth giving my opinion on everything. So, what I would do instead is I would try and be kind of an aggregate series, where I would mention, hey, this is what I know people like about it. They've expressed this online. I've seen a lot of reviews from other people in the online space on BZ Power, because there'd be a lot of Bionicle reviews either on the front page or in the forum itself. So I knew what a lot of commonly held opinions were. Whether or not I agreed with them, I would still bring them up as something that people may or may not like. I'd call them pros and cons, because that's how BZP structured their reviews, so that's how I kind of looked at it. And some of the things I certainly agreed with, but some of them I definitely did not, or I thought, man, this is a very minor thing. Sure, I might not like it, but it's not going to tank this set for me. So I changed them to be kind of aggregate, and I called it an objective review, which I don't know if that's necessarily the most accurate way of describing them, and I'm pretty sure it's not true, because objective is like something factual that you can perceive or interact with. And an aggregate, a lot of reviews are often opinionated. And even if you're giving someone else's opinion, it's still an opinion. It doesn't always mean that it's a factual, objective thing that you can perceive. So again,
true. So I guess more like a non-biased review, or as non-biased as possible.
Yeah, as much as possible. So, and again, I don't know if I'd do that now, because a lot of people go to reviews for a specific reviewer's taste. But there are pros and cons to doing it both ways.
Of course. That's with everything. But that's very interesting to hear how you went about pursuing them. All right, so you started a while ago now your own podcast called The Eljay Johnsen Show. And that ran for a while and then ended 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. 3? Yeah.
Oh, no. Has it been that
3?
long?
Oh, it's been a while, man.
Oh no, that wasn't supposed to happen. That was a mistake.
Oh my God! All right, well, we'll get into that. But first, I want to ask, kind of, what inspired you to start the podcast, and what was the inspiration behind that?
So, That started right after. So there was a thing that happened in TTV. It was a whole ordeal, a whole drama-filled, juicy thing that occurred that resulted in me temporarily not being a part of TTV. And during that time, well, I still enjoy podcasting, but I also really wanted to branch out, not just from Bionicle, but from everything that I've been doing. I wanted to talk to a lot of different people in the community sphere, in the hobby sphere. So I started a podcast called The Eljay Johnsen Show, and the goal of it was to bring on a new guest every week, and we'd talk about something new and something different that they specialized in, or that pertained to them. So Lego Star Wars, Lego Harry Potter, Lego Ninjago, or something that's somehow related that people might find interesting, so that more people could get out there. I could showcase more individuals as best I could on my platform, and also I could learn more about the community and the people within it, and more about the hobby as well. So that was kind of the goal. That's what I wanted to do.
Very cool. And that ran for a while and had a very good audience, I should say. So it did, however, as we just went over, end about 3 years ago. Are you okay with me asking how come it ended, and do you plan on returning to it at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the exclusive, the hot info, just for your audience.
The exclusive Eljay Johnsen info.
All right, here we go. The scoop, the exclusive scoop. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. So the Eljay Johnsen Show is something I still want to do, and it will return. I don't know if I've said that anywhere necessarily, but it will come back.
Okay.
The problem is I don't know when, so it wasn't supposed to have ended for this long. The last episode, I'm looking at it now, is February 23rd, 2020. I did not know it had been so long.
That's crazy.
But yeah, no, I put it on hiatus. The idea was that it was a hiatus because I had recently started a new job. It's the job I'm doing now. I'm a 911 dispatcher. And I was in training, and my schedule started getting a lot more congested, and it wasn't as consistent. And because of that, I couldn't reliably schedule guests for the show or guarantee that it would all be consistently on the same day.
I see.
So I was like, all right, well, until my schedule kind of evens out, I'll just put it on hiatus, and I'll come back to it and keep doing it when I can. And then work got busier, and my responsibilities with TTV ended up getting to be more and more and more, so I had to focus more time on that, more time on work, a whole slew of other things. And then apparently 3 years passed, and I just didn't even notice.
Yeah, just went both like that.
Yeah, and apparently 4 years pretty soon. So
oh my God.
It was not my intention to stop it permanently. I really enjoyed doing it. I talked to some phenomenal guests, and I want to keep doing it. So it will come back. I just don't know when.
All right, that's fantastic to hear. I'm very excited for the eventual return of that. We don't know when, but it will be coming.
One day.
Have you considered doing pre-recorded so you can maybe just do a few whenever and then have them there to still release consistently?
I have. It's definitely something that I've thought about. I've thought about a whole slew of things regarding the show over the years. Oh my gosh, years. But yes, I've definitely, because my preferred recording style is pre-recorded. It's actually not live streamed.
Oh.
Which is what most of them were. And the only reason I did it that way is because it's easier to deal with guests when you make it easy for them, right? So the fewer things they have to sign up for and log into, ultimately the better. Yeah. But I definitely prefer pre-recorded because that's how TTV started doing it. It's higher quality. It's easier to edit. It's just I like, and that way you can have people send in questions and you don't have to worry about interacting with a chat, and it takes attention away from the conversation.
Absolutely. That's interesting that you say kind of that live streaming was easier in a way for the guests. How so? Because I'd imagine that would be more complicated as well with the nerves of, whatever you say, you cannot edit and it will be heard by others immediately.
No, so the guests were never really concerned about that. Sometimes to my detriment, because I had a very strict no language rule, like no cursing and swearing and stuff like that.
A no language
And
rule. You are not allowed to talk during the podcast. It's just silence.
yeah, of course. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, it was a silent show.
Exactly.
It was shadow puppets the entire time.
Exactly. The white noise show.
Yeah, we actually just had Lego people, and we just would like play with different Lego sets, and that would be the podcast. So people would infer what we were talking about as we were just like walking our little Lego people around. Like, tell me, how did you get into writing, Mr. Greg Farshty? And then he, like, his minifigure pulls out a book.
It was completely interpretive. It's completely up to your interpretation.
100%. Made for some awkward times. Sometimes, we'd just get a little off in the weeds, and one of my guests would, like, stab another minifigure, and it'd be like, oh
no.
How does that play into how you got into artistry? That's weird. Do you like the color red? No. But
oh, man.
But yeah, so it wasn't, I guess I misspoke. It wasn't the live streaming aspect that made it easier for them, but it was the me doing everything so that they had to do as little as possible and made it easier for them. And the live streaming made it easier for me because there's a lot less setup and a lot less post-production, assuming that everyone's language is appropriate. So I could just get things done like real quickly and get them out real fast.
Definitely. I do see what you're talking about there, especially in like the post-production part, because that is one thing. Like, I love this podcast, but oh my God, it takes a while to edit everything and like put in all the stuff. So that's probably the only downside of it, I'd say. So that is definitely one of the strengths to doing it live. And I have considered like doing TFOL Talk live, but the issue is I find that like, I think for me, from what I've experienced, it kind of puts people at ease more when it's recorded and they know that things will be edited because, like, we can just, like we've done here, you're not hearing this audience, but, you can have, like, conversations in between questions and all that. And also just for me, like, even though I do my best to be as well-spoken as possible, sometimes my brain will freeze and I'll be like, wait a second. So that's kind of why I haven't switched over to live streaming, just because I'm like, that is a lot to handle.
No, I get that. I completely understand, and you're 100% right. And doing it this way, definitely right. It brings guests a little bit of kind of peace of mind, and you don't have to be as strict and regimented in how you're talking. Like, even now, I don't think I've been doing the best job in talking this time.
Yeah, you have.
But again,
what are you talking about?
I swear it's because I'm a night owl. My hours go into the AM from the PM. So it's like,
wow.
My schedule swapped entirely.
That's good to know. Well, hey, if we ever do another episode of this, then I'll know to schedule it like morning my time.
It's all good. Nah, I'm fine. You know what? I have a lot of stuff to do today. This gets me up for the day. I've got my tea. Okay. This is perfect.
That's good to hear. Question. This doesn't have to be on the podcast necessarily. It's just something I was wondering. How come you decided to be a 911 dispatcher? Because I'd imagine that's a very stressful job.
It can be, and this can be on the podcast. That's totally fine. So I decided to be a 911 dispatcher because, as it turns out, I needed a job. No, I'm kidding.
Wow. Oh, my God. That is insane.
Yeah, wild. So what I used to do, for a brief period of time, I was a dispatcher for a cab company in another state, and I did it remotely.
Oh.
And that job eventually downsized my position, and I, of course, needed work. Because it turns out, the Lego reviews I was doing were not paying for the electricity that I was using to make them. So I was recommended to apply to a position, an emergency communications position. And I applied, and obviously I had dispatch experience, and I could talk because of all of my video experience.
Exactly.
Because there is a lot to dispatching that relies on thinking fast, thinking on your feet, and being able to communicate well with other people. Obviously, you get a lot of emergency calls. You need to figure out how to talk to people in emergencies. And as it turns out, a lot of the practice I had been doing in my videos really helped me in that field. It directly applies to my current profession. So I applied, I got the job, and I've been there ever since. It's been a remarkable journey. And I do all right, I like to think. So
that's amazing to hear that, like, once again, your experience from just doing Bionicle reviews and forcing yourself to speak properly benefited you so much in your current career now without you even knowing that or planning for that.
Yeah, 100%. Because it's funny because the profession that I want to be in is voice acting. I want to be a professional voice actor. It's still my end goal. Right now, this is kind of a stepping stone. But it definitely applies a lot more to dispatching than it does voice acting. The ability to think quickly, think on your feet, be really good at improv, and that tonal control. Super valuable skills and abilities for emergency situations, as it turns out.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really cool. And also, so yeah, I was going to ask about, because I remember you have said in past podcasts and things like that, that your main goal is to be a voice actor. And I just wanted to ask how that road is looking so far, where you've gotten to with that.
So right now, it is on a bit of a pause, just because I've been so busy with work. I haven't been able to do video stuff. I haven't been able to do a lot of practicing. So it is on hold for the time being. So I can't say that it's gotten a lot of progress, but I've done a lot of practice over the years. I've improved, at least I think I've improved. I've been a part of a variety of projects. There was a time where I was like the most requested person to play a specific Bionicle character in fan projects featuring the character.
Man, I sure wonder who that could be.
Yeah. It's a really tough job playing the role of Kopaka, but someone's got to do it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you played that red guy.
Oh, the red one? My favorite. Yeah, so I've got a video on my YouTube channel where I talk about this. It's a character in Bionicle by the name of Liwa. He is the kind of the hero of air. He controls air. He's green. And his mask, his original mask, is the one that I use, and it's the one that everyone kind of recognizes me by. So I've held for a long time that I've envisioned Liwa as sounding like me. So I would apply to these projects, and I'd audition as Liwa, and these people are like, yeah, absolutely, come on, let's go. And so I've been in a slew of projects as Liwa, to the point where I'd been doing it for over 10 years. Just in the blink of an eye, a decade passes, and wow, I've been Liwa in all of these things. And it's been a lot of fun, and it's helped me practice, and I've been in a variety of different projects.
That's incredible. I love the fact that you like worked so hard and just like that you really worked at like making sure that you were the one to voice this character that you felt so deeply connected to in like as much as you could. And really, I mean, in my opinion at least, I think a lot of the community kind of when they think of Liwa, it's like Eljay. Like you guys have kind of become like the I don't know if split personality is the right word, but it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But no, like
right now I'm Eljay, but like at the drop of a hat, I must collect the mask of shielding. That's nothing like how I voice Liwa. Nothing at all. That's Liwa's Batman. But yeah, no,
Liwa's Batman. Oh man,
like I've definitely, there's a lot of similarities. I like the character. Liwa's my favorite Lego character. Period. And certainly there are a lot of personality similarities, but a lot of that is me also just kind of studying the character and trying to come up with a voice that I think works, which sometimes doesn't get requested by people. Sometimes they're like, hey, can you imitate the voice from the first Lego movie, the Bionicle Mask of Light, which is Lego's first film. And that was a struggle because I'm not a fan of that voice, and trying to do that voice I find is very difficult to emote in, but that's also a very good challenge for me to engage with.
I see. That's really interesting to hear. And what is it about Liwa that like made you feel so connected to this character like so deeply? What is it about that?
Green is my favorite color. No, I'm kidding. It is my favorite color, but no, I can't say for sure. Liwa was always kind of he had this dry sense of humor that I found really amusing. Also, yes, unironically, green is my favorite color, and I just thought that the set looked so cool. The mask looks great. It's got this cool smile to it. He's got this axe, which is just super rad.
Yeah.
But I always got to appreciate Liwa's character because he's witty. He has that dry sense of humor. He's a little bit cynical, which I can tend to be. And it's just, growing up, I found that I have a lot of similarities to that. Granted, that might just be because of that emulation. That might be a subconscious, like, well, I like this character, so I'll just be like them. Not a conscious choice, but it is what it is. The one thing we have in common that I definitely don't want to emulate is the fact that he doesn't like water, and I also don't like water, but it's because I can't swim. So if I ended up in water, I would drown.
Okay, that's good to know. But I was gonna say that's like, I mean, I think it is probably like, from what I guess, I'd say you probably did just kind of absorb a bit of like the Lewa personality over the years, because he was like your first Bionicle set, right? And you were quite young when you got him.
No, Lewa was actually not my first Bionicle set.
Oh, shoot, my research is off.
That's okay. It's an easy misconception because so much of my outward appearance is associated. But no, my first Bionicle set was Galak Kal. I don't think I got Lewa until 2004.
Okay, wait, okay, who's Galak Kal? Because I'm not as familiar with the Bionicle names, and I'm sure there's a handful of listeners who aren't either, so...
Absolutely. Galak Kal was a set that released in 2003. It was the winter wave of 2003. And it was this kind of... The story describes them as bugs. I never understood that. But they're these short, squat little fellers which have a gear function which shoots their head forward in kind of a rock'em sock'em robots way. And they've got a little brain in their head. And you flip their face plate, and the little brain shoots out when you, like, shoot the head forward. And this one was blue and silver, which is very off-brand for me.
Absolutely. How could you? Seriously, like, how could you not have that foresight to know that Lewa would be your, like, entire brand, you know?
Yeah, it's actually a huge stain on my reputation, and once they get that time machine running, this conversation will be retroactively changed.
It will, exactly. So write this down for yourself before you forget it, and then you have a whole mystery to solve.
Yeah, 100%. Then you can make this new story, and you can make a fan film about it in Minecraft, and if you need voice actors, guess what? I'll play Lewa. Not me. I won't play Eljay. I'll play Lewa.
Exactly, no. and I'll play Eljay.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Heck
Boom.
Yeah. All right, we got it. We got it.
Boom. All right, somebody's got to make this now. First, you got to make a time machine, but then we can make this.
Yeah, we got to wait on that first. Once the TARDIS is, like, operational, we're good.
Exactly. Now, speaking of a Minecraft film, there's a project by TTV that is called BioCraft. Now, what is BioCraft for anybody who doesn't know, and how can they find it, watch it, get involved with it?
So BioCraft is a Minecraft machinima. It's a film that was recorded in a video game. In this instance, of course, it's Minecraft. And BioCraft Chronicles goes over the first year of Bionicles, 2001. And the brief synopsis is: an island server in Minecraft is under siege by a great evil, an evil named Markuda, and 6 MLG pros have descended upon the island server to save the inhabitants, the players, from Markuda's reign of terror and liberate the island server. And it's about, oh gosh, how long is the movie? It's 1 hour and 10 minutes long. And TTV, we made it in 47 days of continuous work.
Wow. That is incredible. I love that parody so much. That is genuinely hilarious.
It was a lot of fun to do. It's something we had wanted to do. BioCraft is essentially what put TTV on the map initially. It was an idea that I had in 2011 where I'm like, hey guys, we were playing Minecraft, of course, and I had spawned on a beach. And in Bionicle, the very first year, the heroes, they wash ashore a golden beach. So I was like, wow, guys, I spawn on a beach. It's Bionicle in Minecraft. Hey, hear me out. And from that point on, we started making a film. It was just supposed to be Bionicle Minecraft. It was the first year. And it did not go the way we wanted it to. It was not very good, and after years of promising it and working on it and it just not being very good, we eventually shelved it until 2019, where in this blitz, this avalanche of passion and motivation and momentum, we just redid the whole darn thing from the ground up, and it worked out, and a lot of people really liked it.
Wow, that's incredible. I didn't, because I got confused for a bit because I'd heard about Biocraft stuff from like all the way back in like I think like 2013, 14ish, and then I'd seen stuff about it recently, and I was like, so has this been in the works for like all these years, or like what was going on with it? So that's really interesting to hear.
It was a lot of fun. I worked so much on so many different things. We all put in a lot of work. It's 100% this group project that takes so many passionate people, so many creative people, and it brings them together to create this unique, genuine, passionate project. And it was awesome. There were so many different facets to it. I wrote the script, the original draft of the script, in 5 days, and we had it done in a week. And then we spent another maybe a week and a half recording everyone's voice lines. And then we spent another week and a half filming the entire movie. And I edited a third of it. 2 other people edited the other 2/3. And it was remarkable. It was this beautiful journey of passion, and it just turned out so brilliantly.
That's amazing to hear. Genuinely, like that's an amazing thing that you guys did there, and just like once again, it was such a passion project as well. Like that's just so lovely to hear.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I still like watching it every so often. The actual development of it, it's when I was in between jobs, so I had a lot of time, and I spent that time making that movie. And so a lot of the development's actually a little bit of a blur to me, because sometimes I would be working on it for so long I just pass out at my desk. And
oh man.
And so sometimes watching the movie, I'm like, it's a whole new experience. Whoa, who made this? So
Right, no, I can imagine as well, because I guess it was like now it was quite a while ago. It's like once again a bit of a time capsule, no?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we include jokes from Bionicle, jokes from Minecraft, jokes from TTV, but it's done in a way that, unless you're just completely removed from all 3 of those things, or huge chunks of those things, you don't feel alienated by any of it. It's definitely something that casual fans, people that might not be as like super high affinity as people that are like constantly making stuff in this sphere, they can enjoy it and they can have a good time.
That's good to know. And where can people find the movie if they want to watch it?
They can find it on YouTube. It is Biocraft Chronicles, and it is on the TTV channel. So very easy to find.
All right, awesome. That will be linked in the description for anybody who wants to watch that. It's very funny. Like going back, I went back to kind of listen to some of like the Eljay Johnsen show again for some more info. The things I didn't actually need to because I listened to it way back, like back in like 2020 and all that. Dude, honestly, like that was one of the biggest inspirations for this podcast right here. So thank you for that. But you know, I have listened to so many of those episodes so many times over now because there weren't a lot of Lego podcasts. So I just like rewatch them. So honestly, one of the things is like I realized I was like I don't need to watch these again because I could almost memorize some of them. I've seen them so many times. So I just kind of took that info and like pasted it on here.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm very glad to hear that.
Yeah, I was going to say that it was funny because like I think sometimes I'd go back and for some reason some of the episodes would be privated and I'd be like, wait, no, what was that one? I don't remember that one. No.
Yeah, I do have. And I don't mind if this is public or private. It's up to you. There are some episodes of the Eljay Johnsen show that I have privated entirely because, as it turns out, you can have someone or you can talk to someone about one thing and then find out that they're not the best person after the fact, and you then really don't want to like platform them. So there are some groups that I'm like, I've had people from particular groups in the Bionicle community on, and some of those people, I'm just like, this association, I don't feel comfortable with it. And then some of those people are actual, like, genuinely terrible people, in my opinion. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. I refuse to associate with them at all. So
I see. That's understandable. And, I get that.
It happens. You know, you can't know. Sometimes people just it's unavoidable. So
Of course, yeah, you can't read minds. I get that. I'd say I've got a lot of like other questions here, but I'd say let's go on to some of the more TFOL related ones now. So first off, I'm guessing so. Okay, I'm gonna ask the question anyway, even though one of the answers is kind of obvious. But were you once a TFOL, and if so, what was your experience as one like? Did people ever give you a hard time for being a fan of Lego as a teenager? And just like, what was it like for you?
So yes, I was at one point a TFOL. I was before that. In fact, I was what's is it?
K-Fall, yeah.
K-Fall. Okay, cool. I wasn't sure if it was like kid fan of Lego or like child, like
I
C.
mean,
So
yeah, C-Fall. I mean, like, I don't think it's a really necessary term since that's kind of the target demographic anyways. But yeah, that's what I've heard it. That's what I've heard
fair.
it referred to
That's
as.
a good point. We're kind of outliers. That's all right.
Before you actually answer that question, one kind of funny thing I've noticed is that from what I've experienced at least, the Lego community is like one of the only ones that seems to categorize age groups of fans. Like I've never heard that kind of thing in any other collection or community around something that's not necessarily directly for adults or teens before. It's interesting.
It's a really good observation, and I'm not in a lot of other like toy spheres, so like Transformers is a popular crossover with Lego.
Yeah.
But I've never heard that term expressed from them either. Like G1 and G2 is something I've heard in the Transformers community. But yeah, that's a great point. I never thought about that.
Yeah, no. It's just something I realized once. I was like, that's kind of weird that the Lego community like categorizes fans by like age demographic. It's just a weird thing because like I've not heard that anywhere else.
Yeah, that's wow. I think that might be a lot because Lego does push for different age ranges so much. Like especially
Maybe.
now, they have an adults welcome theme, so it's a very intentional marketing. So I wonder how much that has to play into it.
I don't know because I think the term has been around for like years. I think like as soon as adults started getting into it, it kind of probably formed around then. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing to look at, and I wonder if that has any greater effect on like how the community interacts as well and perceives each other.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting thing that I wonder if anyone's delved into that because I definitely haven't. In my experience being like a TFOL, I like we discussed earlier, I've kept my age a secret, and I'm sure some people can probably guess it just based on the ages of the people I associate with at any given time. But that ambiguity I find is still nice. But I never really ran into a lot of issues being a TFOL outside of my behavior, which, you know, I was young and foolhardy, and I said silly things, and I was very brash and argumentative. But
Harnessing your inner Liwa.
What was that?
Harnessing your inner Liwa.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. But some of that's carried forward. A lot of it, fortunately, hasn't. But I didn't run into a lot of issues because I was younger than people. It was just, but a lot of that's also because I was interacting with people that were of similar ages, and people that were older than that.
Okay.
Tended to either be people I didn't interact with very often, or they were people that acted similarly, which was kind of weird. So it's like, there's a disconnect here. But no, I didn't run into a whole lot of issues, which was really nice. The entire community has been very welcoming and very polite in that respect. So no, it's been mostly pretty smooth, and even people outside of the community, they find it fascinating that I do a lot of Lego stuff, especially now. But a lot of people really like Lego, so they're on board pretty quickly.
Exactly. No, that's good to hear. So you've never had like a particularly like, I don't know, like friends or something like pick on you when you were a teen about like, oh, you're into Lego, that's such a little kid thing or nothing like that? Glad to hear.
No, not at all. Basically everyone that I hung out with, either they were in the Lego or they were just like, oh, look at him, he's so quirky. And it's never an issue. All the people that I hung out with, both in the community and outside of it, they're like, okay, cool.
All right.
Yeah,
that's
totally
good to hear. I'm very glad. And did you ever have a dark age or no?
Nope. I have never had a dark age. I've been consistently a Lego fan since easily late 2002 when I got my first Bionicle set.
All right. That's really cool to hear. I guess you could say your dark age was before you got into Lego.
Yeah. I guess that brief period of, consciousness and no consciousness, yeah, I would say that would be a dark age.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, man. So, if LEGO was going to start focusing more on teens, like they have with the whole Adults Welcome line, what do you think they could do for TFOLs?
Bionicle.
Yeah. Honestly, though, I agree.
I half joke. Because the whole part of the appeal, not the whole appeal, but a lot of the appeal to the Bionicle theme was its story and the fact that the authors, they gauged it toward a slightly older teenage audience. And the idea behind that was younger fans, younger kids, they want to get into what older siblings, older friends, people that are older are into. And so if you make something for an older demographic, a younger demographic will thereby follow. And Bionicle was definitely a lot more of a serious theme. It had serious story elements. You had these really dark things that you would not see LEGO doing now. And
unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like, oh wow, that was gritty, that was crazy. But it definitely worked very well for Bionicle. And there were multiple times where they would kind of reinvent themselves a little bit, but definitely still be angling for that older audience of mid to late teens, roughly in that ballpark. And they were successful with it. It worked very well for them. So if LEGO were to try to kind of market to that older demographic, they would need to create something that captures that older demographic's interests. And I think they're capable of doing it. I just don't know necessarily what that would look like for them in this day and age.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, and I completely agree with what you're saying about, the strategy there of marketing to older kids to also get, the younger kids, their siblings, whatever, into it as well, because I can attest to that, because I was in the younger demographic. Actually, I mean, by the time I was born, Bionicle was already halfway through its, lifespan, but when I was old enough to kind of have consciousness of it, I remember seeing, so I lived in New York City before, so I'd see kids outside playing with Bionicles, and I'm sorry, I said Bionicles.
It's okay.
Playing with Bionicle figures, and and I'd see them playing with those, and I remember very clearly, I thought to myself, that's big kid Lego. I'm going to play with that when I'm older. Now, unfortunately, it got discontinued around that time because 2010-ish, but still, the thought was still there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's such a winning strategy. It makes perfect sense. I don't think there's anything that LEGO does right now that fills that gap. I don't think they have a theme that is aimed toward that kind of middle range, the teenage audience. Because you have Ninjago, which generally speaking is still aimed younger and is fairly traditional LEGO. Bionicle got to exist in a space where it was bridging the gap between LEGO and action figures. And it did that very well. And LEGO they're not in that right now.
No, I agree. And I really think, as a teenager myself, I really think they need to do something like that again. Because you can still have a more serious storyline without it not being age appropriate, you can still balance that. And I think it's important because it's good for, I think, younger kids and teens to really be able to take in a piece of media that has weight that they can actually get invested in while still being careful not to cross that line.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And I just think, I don't know how LEGO would pull that off right now, because Bionicle did a really good job of intertwining its product line with its story. The story, if it was meant, of course the story was meant to market the product, it did a really, really, really good job of it. And
my God, yeah.
I don't know how they pull that off at this point without trying to replicate it, honestly. Because their attempt in 2015 just was not it.
No. Though I have to admit, when that came about, I remember so clearly, I'd heard, all the legendary theme Bionicle is coming back, and I was still quite young at the time, so I remember being in, one of the supermarkets, I'd turn a corner, and on the Lego aisle, there's just the Bionicle sets there, and I'm like, oh my God, it's back! Because I knew I missed out on it, and I just had heard whispers of, this legendary theme that was so crazy, and this, that, and the other, and I was like, oh my God, it's here. But yeah, no.
Yeah. No, it was It was a wild time, honestly. Definitely being like in the middle of all of that, it was exceptionally exciting. But yeah, no, I would definitely say Lego, I think they would do well if they had a new theme that marketed specifically toward a more serious story, one that teenagers nowadays could get invested in, could be gripped by. And I think that if I had to cite some examples, there's a lot of superhero related mediums that definitely fall into that category. I think you're going to see a bit of a resurgence of people getting very invested in Percy Jackson because that's getting a TV show now.
Yes.
And so there's a lot to definitely reference in that field, but I just don't know what the Lego spin on that would be because Lego isn't going to do an original superheroes theme when they have Marvel and DC.
Exactly. No, you make a good point there. And I was going to say that I think shoot, wait, I just had it in my mind. Hold on, you said something really good there that I wanted to... Come on.
You got it.
It was... Yeah, so about how, like, not knowing how they'd kind of go about that now necessarily, it is kind of difficult, I think, because once again, times have also changed as well, and the people's mindsets and the way they've grown up and people at that age are very different than they were back then. Like, I can say that even now as a teenager still, like, I look at some younger kids and I'm like, what are you doing? We didn't do that when we were that little, did we? Like, you know, everything's changed. So it's difficult to gauge how to then adapt it to that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I do think that there are some people in the Lego space right now, they say that there's no way a Bionicle return could work. And I can't help but categorically disagree with those people. Because there's a difference between want, can, and should. Do I necessarily want Bionicle back? Maybe not. But that's just because I'm very satisfied with where it was, what it was. I like it, and for it to come back, obviously I'm going to be engaged with it, and I just don't know what that would be.
Mm-hmm.
Can it come back? Can it resurge? And can it be that gap filler for a teenage audience? I think absolutely. I think there's a good argument to suggest it did it once, it could do it again. You just got to have the right minds behind it.
Yeah.
And finally, you have should it come back? And that's going to be a personal opinion. That's just going to be some people are going to say yes, it should, and some people are going to say no, Lego wouldn't do it the way it was, and it won't work the same way, so it should not. But to the people saying that it absolutely wouldn't work, I say it absolutely could come back, and the people saying that it can't have a severe misunderstanding of what it was.
Interesting. No, I get what you're saying there, and I do agree that I think it would work again nowadays, just seeing how much it's beloved now, and seeing how it was, I don't know, it feels like it was slightly ahead of its time, because seeing what a lot of teens and even, like, I guess tweens are into now when it comes to shows and movies, Bionicle very much aligns to those things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you see a lot of people getting into it even now that still relate very strongly with it. They're creating new interpretations that didn't exist at the time the material was published, and they're engaging with it in new and interesting ways. That's why it's so exciting when new people get introduced to it, because they get to engage with it in the now, and it's done, it's said and done, it exists as it is. And I think that's an interesting blueprint and an interesting kind of marker for whether or not it could work nowadays.
That's interesting. No, you make a really good point there. And, like, the subject never gets old. Like, I'll see YouTubers that are in a completely different sphere just make a Bionicle video or say Bionicle was the coolest thing or just things like that. It's still very relevant. Like you said, it can very much cater to people now. And I was going to say that I feel that one of the issues with Lego still trying to cater towards teens when it comes to a specific theme, not necessarily something like the 18+ line, is that it's still looked at from a very childlike lens, even if it's trying to cater to slightly older kids. So, I mean, I think Ninjago is good where it's at now. It fills a right space. It can cater to, like, kids and teenagers. But things like that haven't worked in the past, things like Hidden Side that have tried to, things like that have tried to cater to teenagers in whatever way with technology, whatever it be, it's all been very pandering, I've noticed. It kind of feels like they're a little bit disconnected, or at least whatever side decides the final, this is what the theme is going to be, it feels like sometimes they can be a little bit disconnected from what teens actually enjoy or want. And I can't help but wonder if they like actually get genuine, like, 16 to like 17, 18-year-olds in there to actually be like, hey, this is cool. This is not, what are you doing? Like actual playtesting with teenagers, not tweens.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think you definitely hit the nail on the head when it comes to a lot of it feels pandering. Make no mistake, I really liked Hidden Side. I haven't engaged with it fully yet, though. Like, I am going to watch what was released for it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But there are aspects of it that definitely seem we need to hit demographic markers. With Bionicle, when it initially came out, the development, the understanding of it evolved, of course. But there is a term that LEGO had for their stereotypical Bionicle fan. And I think they used the word, there's a great book called Brick by Brick, How LEGO Conquered the Global Toy Industry and Rewrote the Rules of Innovation. Phenomenal book. It's so good. And it has an entire chapter on Bionicle, and because it was so influential. And the kind of profile they had for a Bionicle fan was like the Bionicle bully. He's like this very abrasive kid. He's very like out there. He's very high energy. He's like constantly getting into things and being like a focus in the scene, right?
Yeah.
And I think there was another one that had something to do with skating. LEGO was very invested in Bionicle relating to skating. Like skateboards.
Okay.
I don't understand that a whole lot. But there was definitely a very specific, like they'd have mood boards for when they were designing the aesthetic and the atmosphere, the vibe of different years. And it definitely feels more now that they have a checklist of what they think kids would be interested in. And I think you not only saw that with Hidden Side, but you definitely saw it with video. Video, I feel, was the actualization of LEGO trying to capture a teenage TikTok audience. And it didn't work.
No, absolutely. I think that's really interesting what you said there. And I mean, I think probably the skating thing was like, oh, skaters are cool. It's like the whole skater kid vibe, which, I mean, I feel like they probably did hit as well, and then some. But I think one thing that I realized, I've thought this before and I forgot that I thought this, is that I think one of the reasons that we're not seeing a lot of stuff like that now is partially because times have changed, but also partially because LEGO's not in a financial crisis anymore. They're too comfortable. Therefore, they don't need to innovate. And that's not a slight against the designers or story writers, because I know those guys, of course, they create amazing things. It's more the corporate side of it that they don't need to pour a lot of money into the super experimental thing because they're perfectly fine. So, like, there's no need to innovate anymore. And that's Bionicle, I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, came around when LEGO was in a financial crisis and they were just throwing things out there. So that's why it was so unique and different and it worked. But they don't need to do that anymore.
I think there is some truth to that. I think that one would argue that LEGO making stuff like Hidden Side and stuff like video are their attempts at innovating. They are their attempts at trying to capture those audiences. I just think that the way they're going about it is a bit... the folks making those decisions, I don't think perfectly understand the rationale behind what people like. Like, they're just slightly out of touch, which LEGO has been known to be. LEGO traditionally has been known to be out of touch at several points in their existence, especially most notably what you just mentioned, their financial crisis. It was brought about by them being out of touch.
Right.
So I definitely think that they're always trying to do new stuff. They're always trying to cater to as many audiences as possible, which, of course, they are creating a product that they would like people to acquire. That is just the way of business. But I don't think that they've been as successful as they could be, because I don't think they're willing to really sit down and consider, what do we want to do for this age range? What do they actually really like? And how can we do that in a way they will resonate with? Because for me, Bionicle, whenever I was engaged with it, whenever I was playing with a toy, or as I got older, wearing my mask, it made me feel cool. That's what I was super jazzed about when I was in that age range. I wanted to feel cool. And Bionicle accomplished that for me. So I think if Lego really tried to make something that made teenage fans of Lego feel cool and be a confidence booster, I think they would have a great deal of success.
Yeah, no, I think that's very key there. They got the rule of cool really down and didn't feel like they were trying too hard.
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, sometimes they definitely were. 100%. You could see, like,
Yo,
okay,
yo, Paraka!
I was just about to say exactly the friggin' Paraka rap. Like, really? Are we doing this? Really? Who are we catering to with the gang is on the loose? Are you trying to cater to gangs? What are we doing here? It's
exactly,
like,
yeah.
all of a sudden you see, like, the Bloods and the Crips, and they've got, like, a Lego backpack, and they've got, like, a Paraka beanie, and it's like, okay, well, you know what?
Oh, man.
That certainly worked, I guess.
Yeah, no. Exactly. One thing that I will say is that I think as well it's their marketing strategies were a lot more invested then.
So I've sat in on a handful of their kind of roundtable discussions back when I was the Lego ambassador for TTV.
Right.
Before I had to take my break. And they definitely still do a lot of research. Like,
Okay.
Dreams, holy smokes. The amount of
Right.
research Lego did into the psychology of dreams and the psychology of children who have particular dreams here and there. It was extensive. It was super impressive. And that's why I actually think dreams is a really, really interesting theme and definitely one people should keep an eye on. It's going to be a really fascinating thing to see develop.
Agreed. I hope it lasts longer than the generally set, like 2.5, 3-ish years.
Mm-hmm. That would be nice. I hope they all do, because I hope they have enough time to explore what they've set out to.
Yeah, I've heard some people say before that they feel like it's a bit of like a lazy choice, like, oh, dreams, like, think of creative dreams, boom. Like, I don't feel like it's a lazy thing, actually, personally. I think it's really, you can do anything with that, so it's like, you could go anywhere with that concept, so it gives them a lot of room to test out anything they want to. And I think it's a very good theme to have there.
I think that it makes such perfect sense. It is, to me, it is as common sense to do as Lego and Minecraft is. Because it's just so, like, it's dreams, it's imagination, it's creativity. And the fact that it's actually taken them 90 years to get to a dream about themes, I think is actually kind of surprising. So, no, I don't see it as lazy at all, especially not with the work that they showed at that roundtable I was part of. It was really impressive.
No, that's very interesting to hear. Before we switch on to the next topic, I will say really quickly on that, I think Monkey Kid has really done well in switching things up and catering to a wider audience. I've done like 2 videos about it and talked about it on multiple podcasts, but they've done very good at catering to Lego fans and then artists as well, which is shot it out of the little bubble of the Lego community and just expanded it so much. And I think it's amazing what they're doing there.
Yeah. And I 100% attribute that to its show. Its show is so much fun. But you want to know what else its show is? When it really starts kicking off, when that animation, just the budget hits, it's cool. It's super freaking cool.
Exactly.
Now, Monkey Kid is great. And so it doesn't surprise me at all to see that it has a popularity outside of the Lego community. It makes perfect sense. And I'm just like, see, Lego, it's very doable. Just do that again.
Yeah.
Just like slightly different.
Absolutely. I think the only thing stopping it from being even more widespread is that on surface level, it looks like it can be kiddie because it's very high energy, silly stuff. But then once you get past that, it's kind of the same formula as a lot of popular cartoons. It's like, oh my God, this is intense. It gets very intense and deep and thought-provoking, you know?
Absolutely. No, I think that it's 100% a case of don't judge a book by its cover, because at first, like you said, it seems very for a younger audience. And it certainly is, don't get me wrong, but it surprises you in a lot of ways that a lot of modern cartoons will do. And I think that a lot of people also, a general audience might be a little put off by it because it is so cartoony. And even, this might sound weird, it's very anime. And there are a lot of general audience people that aren't on board with kind of an anime style or anime in general. And so that's why if you wanted to have another theme dedicated to TFOLs, then it would need to be something that appeals to a slightly more general audience, because if you're aiming at teens, you're actually aiming above teens.
Right.
So it's to capture older fans, it would need to be something a little more, I don't know, gritty is not the word I want to say, but it's the closest thing that I can think of right now. It's just kind of that serious tone that doesn't look quite as bright and young as what a lot of stuff does now.
No, I completely agree there. And yeah, Monkey Kid's doing great with that so far once you get past the surface level stuff. Like I've seen some things that have been like, oh my god, that like they deal with like trauma and stuff in there. It's like it's seriously insane. But yeah, it's as well the art style thing as well, I think is a big draw because one, the studio has a very good reputation, but also it's something that hasn't been seen before in a Lego show. And when I saw the trailer for Monkey Kid, I immediately knew, because I'm like an artist as well. I'm in the general art community, so I was like, they're going to love this. They're going to pick this up, and I was right. I've still to this day seen Monkey Kid fan art from like art accounts that have nothing to do with Lego whatsoever. And I'm like, oh, look, there's Sun Wukong, there's Macaque, like there's everywhere. It's amazing. And it's really exciting to see that they finally did it. They were able to push out of the little Lego fan bubble to a wider audience, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here on.
Absolutely. And I think Lego is also very smart to make Monkey Kid about Journey to the West, because it's just so ingrained in popular culture, and there's so much to pull from and reinvent and engage with that it's just inherently understood by people what that is. And if someone isn't familiar with it, they've got so much that they can be engaged with by that. So it's super, super smart.
Absolutely. Hey, now, I mean, Monkey Kid construction figures, there's plenty of characters that could do that for. Just saying.
I 100% believe they could pull it off. I'd be very curious to see what that looks like, because I think right now, construction, and for anyone unfamiliar, construction is kind of it is a Lego term. It means constructible action figure. And it was first introduced by Lego with Galador, which released in 2002. But I think right now construction exists as these kind of Ninjago mechs and a lot of the Marvel and DC figures you're seeing right now, like the Spider-Mans, like Miles Morales, Peter Parker, the Venom figure, Wolverine, etc., etc. I think that is what construction is currently. And I think Monkey Kid could work very well in that style. They have so many mechs, it'd be a shoo-in.
No, it could really be amazing. And now, okay, so on to another topic now. Before we go into some other stuff, I meant to ask this before we got down on like the Monkey Kid and other original Lego themes train. That's a great thing about this. It flows. But for anybody like me who wants to get into Bionicle but has no idea where to start because it's very split among different media types and very in-depth, where can people start to get the most authentic experience of the story? Like, how can they experience it in the best way and get into that?
So, when it comes to getting into Bionicle, this is something that I want to make a video about, because there are just so many different ways you can get into Bionicle, especially now, since the media is so readily available in just so many different ways. I really do want to kind of cover this and go a little more in depth and kind of create like a starter guide for people.
Okay. But that would be amazing.
I'll give you a little bit of a preview now. Another exclusive.
All right. Sounds good.
So the way that I would recommend it currently, because you're right, Bionicle is divvied up into a variety of media types. Comics, books, films, animations. It's just so extensive. My favorite way is a member of the community that on the TTV message boards, which it's board.ttvchannel.com. You do need to be 13 years or older in order to make an account. That's just because we do have Lego employees that are there, and the only way that they can be there is if there's an age verification, and you have to be 13 years or older.
Yeah.
So one of our members there, Taraga Nuva, made this extensive compilation of the written and visual material, so like comics and books and short stories, and put them in, let me see how many, in about 10 books. They're 10 documents, and they tell the Bionicle story year to year. So, like, as you're supposed to follow up if you were, like, a fan of the series.
Yeah.
So, as far as actual canonical story content, that is my favorite way to recommend to people. But if you don't want to start with that, there is no question about it. The most quintessential starting point that anyone can recommend is to start playing a Flash game called the Matanui online game. And you can find that on the Biomedia Project, which is a phenomenal website that has, if I'm not mistaken, all, if not most, of Bionicle's media, just in general. I'm talking pictures, comic scans. I think it has all 4 movies, games, everything. LEGO has given permission to host all of that stuff there. They're all in the free and clear. And all of it is free for download, including the Matanui online game, which you can download and start playing.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah, I know, because that's always been the difficult thing for me, at least, is because I know it like started with the Flash game, and then there's comics that go here, and then there's a movie, but then another game that ties in, and then it's always been the order that's been difficult, because when I was younger, I was like, I'm going to get into Bionicle, and I watched all the movies, and I was like, that didn't make sense. So that's very helpful to know. And I know there's many other people who probably want to get into it, but are a bit confused on how to. So thank you for that little, I guess, brief description of how to get into it. And for anybody else watching, you can look forward to Eljay's video on going even more in depth whenever that comes out.
I will make, I got to try and make it before Duckbricks does.
All right.
That guy's making everything. Duckbricks is great. He's such a great guy. So I got to just beat him to the punch this time.
Right. The only thing with his is that he does it completely chronologically, right?
So Duckbricks has a 9-hour lore guide. So his video is specifically about the Bionicle story. I've heard that I haven't seen it yet because I know what's in it, so I haven't had like a need to. But I understand there's like some meta stuff, like what the company was doing sprinkled within. I don't know how true that is. But what I want to make is specifically a guide here. Start here, then you go to this, 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 and just giving people an actual guideline or like a field guide on where they need to go in order to best understand the Bionicle story.
Right, yeah, no, and I think that's really good to have both because I think I started to watch Duckbricks, I think it was before he compiled them all into a 9-hour documentary, basically. Because the only thing with that is if you want just like to know the story, then yeah, that's like just the best way to go. If you just want to get the story down, he goes over all of it. But the thing is, I'm pretty sure from what I've heard, he goes over it chronologically. So you don't hear about even the Toa until a little bit later on. So I think if you want to like experience it, how it came out, then something like what Eljay is doing, compiling there is more for you. So
yeah,
depending on what you're going for, there's both of those options. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there are definitely pros and cons to doing it either way. Chronologically, you're getting like the full story for sure. But if you follow the story the way that it was initially told, you get to appreciate the storytelling techniques, appreciate the surprises, because there's so many twists and turns and surprises in the story, and you just get to experience the things that you would by following the story naturally.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. So I'd say we can get into some viewer-submitted questions now.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
So the first question is by @17, who asks, favorite non-Bionicle theme?
Ooh, great question. And thank you so much for submitting one. I would say that my favorite alternates a little bit. I'd say of the active themes, it's Ninjago. I really like Ninjago. I think they do a good job with it. Outside of active themes, it's Exoforce. Exoforce is my second favorite LEGO theme. It's just, again, it's super friggin' cool. I love it.
It is. God, that would be... I'm a huge mech fan. I know a lot of people complain about there being too many mechs. I say there's not enough of them. But
I agree.
God, it would be so cool to have like a reboot of Exoforce. And with the pieces and techniques, Oh,
Yep.
that would be so cool. Come on.
Yep.
Please, any set designers that might be listening to this, we need this.
Absolutely.
Anime fans, Gundam fans, they'll go crazy. There's an audience for that.
Oh, 100%. That did remind me. I actually made the first online review of an Exo4 set.
What?
It doesn't exist anymore because it was a written picture review. Like I took pictures of the set and I wrote out a review on BZ Power back in 2008. And unfortunately, it doesn't exist because BZP had a major server data loss a while back. So, but I was the first online review for the Chameleon Hunter from Exoforce.
That is so cool to hear. That's cool that you at least know that you did that. Like you have that badge of honor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm very, very content by it.
Nice. All right, our next question is by Commander Batlord, who asks, well, both him and the next question asker, Cool Guy Dom, have similar questions, but they're slightly different. So I'd say, depending on what the answer is, you could answer both. Commander Batlord asks, what was your favorite memory of Bionicle as a kid? And then Cool Guy Dom asked, favorite Bionicle memory. So I'm guessing generally. So if there are two, I guess you could answer them separately, but if they're both from when you were a kid, then yeah.
So that's a tough one. So when you say kid, are you talking like pre-18 or specifically like KFOL versus TFOL?
I don't know. I'm assuming Commander Batlord is asking just like, yeah, probably like up to like the teen mark, I'd say. So like kid, teen, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know how the timeline works out, just like age-wise. So we'll keep it vague. When I was younger, I don't remember how old I was specifically when this happened, but there is a plot point. There's something that happens in Bionicle, and it's this huge thing. It's this incredible, like, world-altering reveal, and it's just mind-blowing. And I would definitely say that is one of my favorite memories from Bionicle. Again, don't remember how old I was at the time, but when TTV did an interview with Lego author Greg Farshty, before the podcast started, and I have the recording, it's one of my favorite recordings. Greg Farshty, we're chatting with him, just kind of warming up, hanging out. It was the first time we'd ever talked to him. We're obviously like freaking out and fanning out. And someone, we were talking about my collection, I mentioned I had all the books he'd written right next to me. And someone was like ragging on me, like, wow, look at this nerd. And Greg Varsity goes, come on, he's a man of good taste. And I lose it. I'm like, oh my gosh, my favorite author said that. And it's like, ah. So that was great. Overall, I would say one of my favorite memories is back in 2016 after Bionicle got canceled the second time. There was a model from the final TV show episode, the Netflix special that they made, that we had gotten partial instructions for, but no one had like really built it yet. So what my friends and I did is we went across all these stores because we were in place for one of the first few times all meeting up for Brick Fair. And we went around all these stores and spent days and hours reverse engineering this thing. And it was just so much fun. We were going on an adventure to build this model and create it as quickly as possible. That was a super fun memory. It was a joy.
God, that is amazing to hear. Those are some like just super. They sound like a super special memories, like you said, and it sounds like just so much fun. Especially the last one you just said there about like going on this journey to assemble this final model. It's like whenever I just guess embark on something like that with other people, it's just like the best time, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, and it's hard to narrow it down to, because I've been very fortunate in that I've got to experience so many incredible things, and so many phenomenal things have occurred that I've gotten to be a part of. So I've been super lucky and remarkably fortunate. It's been crazy. It's been great.
Absolutely. I was going to say, okay, so just going to take a stab at what the world-altering plot point could be. Hello, this is Future Coffee, just here to warn you, massive Bionicle spoilers ahead. I mean, like, the finale of the entire story massive. So if you don't want that to be spoiled, and even if you think you're fine with it being spoiled, but maybe you want to experience the story, just skip ahead to this timestamp. Trust me, you don't want this spoiled for yourself if you've managed to not have it spoiled already. All right, bye. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Future Kavi out. Because I might know, but if I don't, oh well, I'll experience for myself. Was it the Matanui World Robot thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I figured.
100%. Literally,
See, I started with that knowledge.
When I say it's a huge thing, I mean literally.
Quite literally. Yeah, no, one of the first things like Bionicle Medias that I took in was literally the last movie. So I kind of started knowing that.
Dang, that's brutal.
I know. It's because, like, once again, like, my dad knew about Bionicle at the time. I don't know how he knew about Bionicle, but he did. So I'd hear a little bit about it from him. And he bought the movie at one point. He was like, yeah, we should watch this. So we did. And to be honest, both of us were like, that was kind of lame. But I started with the kind of Matanui World robot. And I was just like, what is happening? So there's a robot, but they're living inside, but on top. Okay.
Yeah. That's a rough place to start, and it's funny too because 2009 was supposed to be a soft reboot, and then it got canceled, and they were like, "Oh no, quick, end it!"
Rather than a soft reboot, they just gave it the boot.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I'm gonna remember that one. That's pretty good.
I'm big into puns, and I drive my friends crazy, but occasionally you get good ones like that.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've had so many things thrown at me for some really good puns, so keep it up. But be careful.
Yeah, I will. I'll ignore the death threats from my friends.
Yes, there we go. That's exactly. The amount of times I've been threatened with getting tased, it's just... But, it's always worth it.
Absolutely. Hey, look, next Brick Fair, if you're going and I end up going, we'll just go around, pun to everybody there, and piss off everybody.
Let's do it. I'm down. I'm planning on going next year, so I'm down.
Awesome. Same here. I'll hopefully be going again next year. So if so, we got to do that.
All right. I'm down. Right.
Awesome. So EXX Trooper asks, second favorite Toa.
X. Oh my gosh. X is a friend of mine. He's another member of TTV. He's great. Yeah. Great guy. X.
He is.
Hello. I miss you. Second favorite Toa is Pohatu. Surprisingly, I've been asked this a lot, and it always is like, second favorite Toa. I gotta come up with an answer, but it's absolutely Pohatu.
Okay, and how come?
He's got a friendly personality, which I always like. He's just like the buddy. A lot of people will say, "Oh, Liwa and Pohatu, they've got such similar personalities." They don't. They're very different, very distinct. Pohatu's everyone's friend, and he has a very unique build when he originally was released. He has the most pieces out of any of the original 6, and it's very uniquely designed. So, definitely Pohatu.
So the thighs was the draw. No.
I was going to say the mask and the rock, but you know what? To each their own. Everyone likes these sets for different reasons. All right? No.
Exactly. Yeah, no. I see that. That's really cool to hear. All right. And yeah, X is a great guy. I talked to him for the first time at Brick Fair, and he was very kind and supportive. So, really cool guy.
Yeah.
All right. And finally, Anders KF on Twitter asks, what is your favorite Lego theme from the time period 1980 to 2000? Very specific, but interesting.
Great question. Also, kind of difficult for me to answer because a lot of the themes that I interact with are, starting with Bionicle, so it's after that point. But I do have an answer. It's Adventurers.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And how come Adventurers then?
So Adventurers, it started in the late 90s, I think. I'm reasonably confident. It's either started in the late 90s or 2000. I'll double check that real quick. But
I think it's late 90s.
It existed long enough to where I got to enjoy it a little bit on Lego.com with a lot of the Flash games.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I kind of experienced it, because I'd play a ton of the Flash games, obviously like the Matanui Online game, but also there was a racing car game. There was all of the Adventurers games. Okay, yeah, Adventurers 1998 to 2003.
I see.
So, yeah, I would definitely say Adventurers. I like that they've been reintroducing the characters and their designs in modern Lego sets. It's been really, really cool.
I love it when Lego does like throwbacks or references to like themes that were around before I was even born, or themes I don't even really have a vested interest in, but it's just fun to see them acknowledging their past.
Absolutely. I think it's great. That's why I dig Bionicle references in modern sets a lot. I think that they're just really cool.
Absolutely. Now, just a quick little question here, just for anybody who's unaware. So you have, I don't know if obsession is the right word, but a huge adoration for a very obscure fruit. What is that fruit, and what's kind of like, how come it's your logo? What is it? How come you decided to make that your thing?
So my logo, if anyone's seen it, it's an L and a J in the shape of a fruit, and it was designed by my good friend Zeros, who is an incredible artist and designer. He did such a great job. It was a gift from him. And what the fruit is, it's a mangosteen. And a mangosteen, it is my favorite fruit. I got to experience it for the first time when I was really young. Here's another exclusive. I don't think I've ever mentioned this publicly. My first time experiencing mangosteen was because my barber at the time illegally smuggled them into the country. And somehow I acquired them. I was very, very young, and I just knew that they weren't allowed to be in the U.S. They are now, but at the time, like there was an illegal import of fruit to the country.
I see. So you were harnessing your bad boy there.
Yeah, it's trying to be like super cool. It's like, you don't understand.
Exactly.
You don't understand me. But yeah, so I tried it, and I was like, wow, this is super cool. I really like this. It tastes really good, and the outside is very nutritious. So I just grew an affinity for it, and when I started making comics, Bionicle comics on BZ Power, a very common thing to do in comics on that subform was to have kind of this gimmick, this food-obsessed character. So, and you would, of course, be a character from Bionicle, so you would have a power. So I had my food-obsessed character, and I was like, well, I'm going to be a Toa, which is a type of Bionicle. I'm going to be a Toa of Mangosteen. And that's just how the association stuck. And I was a Toa of Mangosteen, and it became my logo. And it's great.
That's very cool. I love that. I saw that kind of like name tag under the very first The Three Virtues podcast episode, and I was like, oh, this has been going on for like since the very beginning. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, no, it's not common knowledge, I would say, nowadays, but Eljay also comes from my comic making days, because Eljay, it was originally just the L and the J, it's the abbreviation, acronym, I don't remember. I think shortening of Eljay Johnsen.
Yeah. Right.
And
exactly.
And then everyone kept on calling me LJ for short, and then I extended it to ELJAY, and it's stuck ever since. So
that's cool. Yeah, for the longest time, I genuinely thought LJ was your actual name, and I was like, oh wait, that's not.
Most people did think that, and when because I legally changed my name, so my last name is how it is spelled, and I very seriously considered adding ELJAY as a second middle name, but
I see.
My name was long enough as it is. I was like, nah, that's gonna be too difficult for signing legal documents and stuff. I'm just gonna keep it how it is outside of what I was changing.
Fascinating. That's really interesting to hear. Huh. More exclusives.
Yes, exactly. I don't know if that's public yet, so you got it.
Exactly. This is the place to get exclusive info on all sorts of community members.
Heck yeah. I've got plenty of tea as well, not just in this cup. Like I'll start dishing out drama. No, I'm kidding.
Hell yeah. No, let's all the drama. Let's go. All right, so I'd say before we wrap up, I'm just going to ask a couple more questions. So you are a fan of Minecraft and Lego Minecraft especially. Now, with the Minecraft line, if there is anything, what do you feel could be improved with it, and what would you like to see from it?
So that's a great question. It's also a difficult one because I like the Minecraft line a lot. I think that I said Exoforce is my second favorite theme earlier. Minecraft, that definitely slots into my top 5 easily.
Okay.
I think they do. Minecraft sets, in my experience, which not a lot of it is recent. I haven't gotten a Minecraft set in a little bit now. But in my experience, they delivered some really good bang for your buck because you would have so much space, playable area in those Minecraft sets. And they were like these mini dioramas, and I always appreciated those so much. I thought that they did a really great job. It's tough for me to say what I think they should improve because I think it's solid already. I understand they are introducing facial expressions to Alex and Steve, and they've been introducing these custom skins for a while now. So if I had to say anything, get rid of the current creeper. The creeper has to change. The creeper has always, in my opinion, been the weakest part of Minecraft sets. Outside of high prices, but that's general Lego. They need to go back to the drawing board with the creeper, in my opinion. It needs to be better articulated, and the color scheme needs to match the game more.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's the wrong color completely. It's like normal green, but the creepers are more light green.
It's like, don't get me wrong, the green that it is my favorite shade. The problem is that it's one solid shade of green, and creepers are patterned. So, they need to redo that.
Agreed. Have you watched Cheesy Studios' series on like making like Minecraft world?
I've seen a handful of his videos. Wildly impressive. His review on the Bionicle GWP blew up. I'm like, what the frick? Where did you come from? But his videos are amazing. I love his Exoforce series. But I know he does the Minecraft videos, but I haven't watched them.
Yeah. Okay, I'd highly recommend you check them out because he like really makes them like block accurate as he can. He does some incredible builds, and it's like that is what an 18+ Minecraft line would look like, I think. It's really interesting.
Interesting. No, I'll check those out. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's good. And I was going to say actually before I ask the next question kind of related to that, for a while I was thinking like, for me personally, I always felt like there was something missing from Minecraft sets, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it until I could, and I realized the thing was I know it's not feasible, but I always felt like the blocks should have printing on them to properly get the textures, but oh my god, can you imagine how expensive that would be if every single brick had printing on it to match the textures in game? Like, no.
That would be rough. I think
that would.
The way they handle it now is a happy medium because it makes its accessibility so much better, but it would be kind of cool to see that, almost like those paper mache Minecraft builds that people will make. So that would be kind of cool.
That would. But okay, so the next question kind of related to the Minecraft thing I was going to ask is, what would you think? So Minecraft has branched out into some other ideas. They've done a couple sets based off of Minecraft Legends, if I'm correct. They've done, one's coming, that's it. And they've done a couple based off of Dungeons, I'm pretty sure is what it is, right? Minecraft Dungeons, yeah.
Yep.
And they've messed around with like skins and a Minecraft Earth set and things like that. What would you think about them doing some sets based off of Minecraft creators? Either more current ones like Tommy Innit, people like that, or maybe older, slightly more family-friendly ones like Dan TDM, Stampy, things like that.
So that's a tough one. That's a really difficult one. So I have a lengthy answer, but for the sake of time, I'll trim it down. When you're working with fans and creators that are not just immediately entwined with your company and its brand values and its brand optics, that gets to be very dicey, and there's a lot of unpredictability there. So on the one hand, I think that would be cool because I think it's a really neat way of showing appreciation to those folks and acknowledging their accomplishments and how far they've come and what they've contributed to whatever thing it is that they're involved with, right? So like Captain Sparkles, shoo-in.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. However, there are definitely situations where you have to be so careful with who you're acknowledging and who you're picking, because a few years ago, Dream would have been on the list for people that you would assume would be, part of that if it were a thing, right? You'd expect to see a Dream minifigure. Now, that would be a very, very, very bad idea. So, as much as I think that would be cool, like, I've been in a Minecraft video by LEGO before I won a contest.
Right.
I was acknowledged at at Minecon Earth 20. I think it was 18. Let me double check that real quick. Minecon Earth 2017. I was mentioned by name. They were introducing like a Lego section, and they're like, "We've animated these videos, but with Minecraft creators, Captain Sparkles, Lydia Winter, and an Ant Venom, and Minecraft superfan Eljay Johnsen," and shows like a picture of me with my mask. And it's super cool. The video's still on YouTube.
Oh, no way.
So I think it would be cool, right? But it's always risky biscuits. It's always going to be the kind of thing that Lego is going to be wary of. They've dabbled it in before, and it has equal parts worked out and equal parts bitten them. So,
right.
Yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good answer. It is definitely a very tricky thing to handle because independent people are going to be independent people. So there's only so much you can kind of plan for there.
Yeah.
I was going to say, also unrelated, well, not really unrelated, but I feel like you would be a great Minecraft content creator, just saying. I think that would be super cool.
I've thought about it. I've genuinely thought about it because I love Minecraft. It's one of my top 3 games. It's so much fun. It's a great game. I think Lego Minecraft is awesome. I've obviously dabbled a lot in it. So I've definitely considered it. I just don't know how I would pull it off.
Yeah, no, I get that. Hey, I mean, if you get super into Hytale and maybe super into it enough that you'd want to create a channel for it, that's blowing up. That could be your chance. We could do stuff together. That would be cool as well.
That would be fun. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So for the final question of the podcast, LJ, do you have any advice for TFOLs?
Oh, okay. That's a great question. I would say my advice for TFOLs, younger fans of Lego, if you're concerned about what other people are thinking about you because of your interest in your hobby, don't be. Their opinions on your interests are irrelevant to you. Enjoy the things that you want to enjoy, and if you are someone who wants to create, who wants to make something I've always heard is comparison is the theft of joy. Do something that is uniquely yours and just enjoy doing it, and it'll be very hard for you to have a bad time.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. Really, really fantastic advice. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on the show, LJ. It was a blast having you. And before we end this episode, do you have any social media or other things like that you would like to plug?
Certainly. First of all, thanks so much for inviting me again. I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun, and you're doing a great job, and please keep doing this. There are a lot of people who are going to look back at these podcasts that you're making and will either be inspired to make their own or get engaged in something they didn't even consider because of it. So you're doing a really good job.
Thank you, man. That really means a lot. I really appreciate that. Especially coming from one of the main people who inspired it in the first place, so thank you.
And that means a lot to me, too. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed the stuff that I've made. As far as socials are concerned, you can find me in a handful of places. On YouTube, you can find me at either the TTV channel or Keep the Peace. Peace is spelled Piece. I also have my own channel. It's just Eljay Johnsen. However, it is a little inactive at the time of this recording. As far as social media is concerned, I am over on Blue Sky. You can find me at ljjohnson.bsky.social. But I'm also on Twitter, because I refuse to call it X, at the Eljay Johnsen. That's ELJAYJOHNSEN. And that about does it for me. That's where you can find me.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you all so much for watching. It means the world, and I hope you enjoyed. Links to some of the things and people we talked about will be in the description as always. New episodes now released once every 2 weeks on Tuesdays for TFOL Talk Tuesday, and you can find updates, announcements, and more regarding the podcast over on my Twitter or Instagram, both of which are at DoodleBricks. Anyways, that's all for now, and we'll see you all later.